All right, friends, it's T-Man. We are back with another Blaha video. We're going to react to the gym lifting, recruiting, fitness gear slaves video, which he just uploaded right now. How convenient. So Blaha says, taking fear of junk volume too far. Yeah. Just more made up fake stuff.
Taking your fear of junk volume too far. Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I thought I would
There's no such thing as junk volume. It's just shit people make up in the fitness industry, these words.
chat with you guys and gals a little bit about this today. But a quick reminder, if you guys will please click like down below, it'd be greatly appreciated. If you are not subscribed or following me, please do so. And if you...
There's just people, they don't know what they're doing or what they're getting. You understand me? They don't know what they're training for. They're so stupid.
would be so kind as to drop me a comment down below to say hello or to, again, give your thoughts. I would greatly appreciate that. Thank you so much. So let's get over to this topic of junk volume and taking it too far. I always tell guys, look, lots of people do lots of junk volume. It's been a problem. It can create problems if you're not careful.
Sure, like concentric powerlifting can build muscles. Yeah, all the time. You're building muscles. Yeah, sure, yeah.
I've seen it many times, and that's its own set of issues. And I've discussed that quite a bit in the past, and I can discuss it again in the future.
You can.
But usually with this idea of junk volume, I think
Oh, he can he?
people take it too far. They're like, oh, yeah, we don't want junk volume. And then before long, well, isolation is useless, and they're not doing curls. Oh, chins are all we do. Okay, guys. We do not need everything to be taken to the most idiotic extreme. In other words, we can understand concepts.
That's Blaha.
But we have to balance these things, right?
That's Blaha. He doesn't doesn't want you to know what builds muscles. Everything builds muscles except for eccentric exercise. So everything that he says in his videos builds muscles except for that which builds muscles. Can't damage muscles because that doesn't build muscles, and eccentric exercise. That you can't build muscle doing eccentric, and you can't build muscle if your muscles are damaged. But everything else, you could build muscles, but those things which actually build muscles, they don't build muscles. Wow, that's really interesting, dude.
We have to balance these things. So when we point out junk volume is not useful, and that in some cases junk volume can be counterproductive, it doesn't mean everything is junk volume outside of the squat and the chin-up.
Look, man, you really want to know why Blaha's weak? I told you before, because he can't do anything eccentrically. The whole thing, the whole performance thing, even the squats, bro. The deadlift, the squatting, it's just bullshit, man. He doesn't squat eccentrically. There's poor range of motion there. He's weak in the long range of motion. He's also weak in a long range of motion, like majority of lifters in the gym. If I was to tell people to stand on these two boxes and do a fucking eccentric deadlift, not one of these asshole fucking deadlifting concentric people would be able to lift it, okay? Now, if these asshole people to doing 500-pound squats, if I was to tell them to do it eccentrically for 10 reps, they would barely make it for the first rep, okay? They die at the bottom. You understand me? Because they're weak in the eccentric. So you are not a well-rounded athlete. Here's the old saying. When I was in high school, they used to talk about well-rounded athletes. Do you know what that means, a well-rounded athlete? Well, if I have to explain it to you, that means you don't really know what it is. I suggest you go find out. See what I mean? Now, in the lifting world, if you're not good at eccentric exercises, you can be good at concentric. But if you're not good at everything, then you are not a well-rounded athlete. Fucking get it, dude? How the fuck can you be a coach if you've never done any of that? And all you did was one thing, these silly lifts that he does for performance purposes. A monkey slave, a performing monkey in a zoo. You understand me? There's so many performing monkeys out there. It's ridiculous how many exist online. You see them over and over again. Here's the thing. Somebody wrote me now in the comment section. I wrote him back something. I said, it's too late for you 50 years later. You're never going to know what it's like to have super strength. In order to find out what that's like, you have to go and do it. You have to actually do it to find out what it's like to have that. But none of you will. It's just like, what's his name? I can't remember. Was it Plato or Socrates that said that a man who never saw the full abilities of his body, yeah, this is where you're holding yourself back. You're doing these stupid performing concentric lifts, but you've never done anything eccentrically. So you're never going to ever experience that. It's unfortunate, but I could say the 99% of the people out there are never going to experience that. Very, very few people, that 1%, may experience it. And maybe some people, like I said, people have come across my channel. They may get there at some point and experience what it's like to have super strength. Okay, dude? Yeah.
Okay, so we need to get our head around these topics. We don't have to go to these extremes.
Yeah, but it ain't gonna be Blaha, that's for sure. Ever. His time is gone like the rest of these old people. These old people. I forgot, what was my friend, what did my friend call these people? He had a name for these people. He called them sheeples. That's it. I had a friend, he used to call them sheeples. That's what he said they were.
And I'll see people who do that. They're like, yeah, I'm training 3 days a week, and I squat, bench, deadlift, and do chin-ups. And it's like, sometimes some rows. It's like, well, hey, great, and those are great lifts, and I think you should be doing those. But you'll look at the person and go, you're serious about your gains, right? And I know people like this who are like, well, yeah. I really want to get big. I want to get jacked. I want to get stronger. Like I want to get to a 315 natural bench. I want to deadlift 500. All this stuff, right?
Oh yeah. And yeah, I want to get to 315 and 500 bench and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Whatever. Blaha.
It's like, well, what's your lifetime best? And it's considerably below that, And it's like, how long you been doing this? We're like 8 or 9 years. Okay. See where I'm about to go with this. They're like, but I want to be jacked and I want to look good. It's like, well, why aren't you doing other stuff besides these 4 lifts? Like, why aren't you doing any curls? Well, because I don't want junk volume, and they're just using chin shift.
You want to be jacked and look good. Okay, yeah.
Enough to get me there. And it's like, that's not how it works, guys. This is where we take it too far. This is when minimalism goes too far, right? Minimalism to the extreme is when you say, I just need a handful of basic compounds with very low volume. No, not necessarily. And they shouldn't be super low. They can be moderate volume. But when you get to the point to where you're like, I'm skipping muscle groups, okay? In other words, do you have something to where every muscle you care about is the primary mover? Because you can't say chins, well, or do you care about lats or biceps? So which one are you counting it towards? And that's kind of my point. I'm going to go on a limb and say, most pull-up type movements are going to be more lat dominant. They're not going to be ideal for most people's biceps. Do they help? Yes. Do they help a lot? Yes. They're not going to maximize it. So if you're coming in doing some curls, it's not junk volume. It's literally making sure that muscle gets worked. Junk volume is when you come in and go, yeah, guys, I'm doing 12 sets, 15 sets for my lats every week, and I do 15 sets of curls on top of it, okay? And I'm not blasting pro bodybuilder level drugs. You're probably into some junk volume there, okay? I'm not saying you won't make gains. We're definitely in junk volume territory, but understand the difference, right? Yeah. Junk volume, I'm doing 15 sets or 20 sets of curls every week on top of all my pulling. See, that's
wow, this guy can really talk forever.
Junk volume. But people can't seem to get away from these extremes.
Is this considered junk volume too? These curls with 10 pounds. What a waste of time. Waste.
No, it doesn't occur to them. Look, dude, your pull-ups and rows may not be enough for your biceps.
It's not going to make you better looking, Blaha. And it's not going to stop you aging. And that physique is dead, and it's just going to get worse. And in 10 years from now, you're going to look so bad. If you already look so old at whatever it is you are, 48, I can only imagine you at 58. Kaput. Completely kaput, man. Jesus.
You should consider doing three, 5, 6 sets of curls a week. Okay.
I mean, I looked at you just a couple years ago. I remember on your YouTube channel before COVID, a couple years ago. I haven't changed. I haven't changed since COVID showed up. But when I look at you before COVID and now, wow, you really aged, bro. Like it accelerated like massively. I guess that's what they mean by accelerated aging. Jesus.
That's not junk volume. Okay, let's be clear. If you have a muscle in your body that isn't being fully stimulated by your compounds, it is not the primary mover. Okay?
What?
Doing 5 sets of isolation for that muscle every week is not junk volume. Okay?
Doing isolation for that muscle isn't junk volume? There's no such thing as junk volume. It's just something Blaha in this fitness industry they're made up.
You want to be clear on that? Doing 3 sets of isolation a week for a muscle that's probably being understimulated from your compounds is not junk volume.
You're stimulating it. Why? With all this lightweight. What do you think it's going to do? Here's the thing, Blaha. I have a question for you. All right, this is junk volume. Why do you keep lifting these light weights back and forth, exercising your body with these light weights? What do you think they have? Some magic powers that are going to do something for you? How did you actually lose all that fat? You went from 300 to under 200. How'd you get there? You think those weights did it for you? It's because you dieted, dude, on that stupid tofu and whatever else you're doing there. And you're taking, I guess, TRT to help you. I don't know. Or whatever you said. Primobolan, I think you said in a video test, whatever.
Right? And as much as I might love the bench and I might even love dips, do you really think your triceps are going to get everything they need out of those? Possibly not. You probably, if you really want to maximize your triceps, you probably need to do something for that long head. It could be a pullover, it could be an extension. You're probably going to need to do some other stuff for it.
Yeah.
Okay. Same thing with the bicep. You're probably going to need to do some curls. And even if it's just 3 sets, guys, it's not a big deal. Same thing with your calves. You're like, man,
Sure.
my calves, they're not getting enough from squats. Squats actually do grow calves.
You know, man, you really need to go back and read science, Blaha. The more you do these shortening exercises, your muscles, they get shorter. They're prevented from growing. You prevent them from even growing. Yeah, you're shortening them so they get smaller. Whatever.
But, I digress. Will you maximize your calf growth off some squats? Probably not. You might want to do some calf raises. Okay? You see where we're going with this? And the best way to look at this is if you say, okay, I want to get maximally big, but I don't want junk volume, and you say, okay, well, how many sets a week do you think you need for a muscle to make it? You're okay, you pick that number, whether for you it's 4, 5, 6, 10, whatever that number happens to be.
Yeah, okay.
And if you're in that range and you say, okay, but I'm really only going to count 1 muscle per exercise. People are like, but there's squats and bench work, lots of muscles. Yes, they do. I'm aware they do. I agree they do. But if you really only count 1, right? Because
This is the reason why power lifters can't figure out why they're so small. I got a stronger, but I never got a bigger. And if anything, I got smaller. You know how many, like I said, do you know how many people complain in gyms that they got smaller? And they can't figure out why they got smaller lifting weights. Because Man, the that range, what you're lifting in is shortening your muscles. Consistent. You're very consistent at doing it. There's people that are very consistent at lifting in the gym at causing their muscles not to grow and to actually get smaller. And so, trust me, believe me, I've been there. I've been in the gym, and there's so many people. I remember them complaining they got smaller. Yeah. And I know in the back of my mind why they got smaller. It's kind of obvious. They're just too stupid not to see that. But whatever. And then they're very, like I said, they're very consistent in doing that. And then they're just performing slaves. They're just performing. That's why powerlifters are frustrated. They think they don't look the part. They lift these heavy weights concentrically, and they can't figure out why they don't look the part. And they go, we lift a heavy weight. We should be big because we lift heavy weights. See what you understand that? You people see the delusion in that? The delusional people in their mind, their delusional mind. Oh, we lifted a heavy weight. We should be big. Why are bodybuilders bigger than us? They're not as strong as us. They don't lift as heavy as us. You see, you understand the stupidity, the difference between bodybuilders and powerlifters. Bodybuilders still put in more intensity in the full range of motion. See what they're still getting the eccentric. Okay, you got the phony bodybuilders, the phony drug bodybuilders. So then it ends for them. Okay, but the majority of real bodybuilders, you talk about natural bodybuilders, we lift eccentrically. I guess it's just a lost art for other people, okay? I don't know. In real bodybuilding, when you read PubMed NCBI, real bodybuilding is based on eccentric exercise. Why? Because that's what builds mass and strength. That's what builds muscles and strength. So that's what you're aiming for, right? In bodybuilding, you want to build muscle, right? And you want to build strength. So that's the exercise, the modality that you use. All right. But regardless, so you have powerlifters on steroids, and then you have these bodybuilders on steroids. And I'm not saying that these bodybuilders on steroids, they're not getting some myofibrillar growth. They're definitely getting some because they lifted even heavier, even if it is full range of motion. That eccentric has to constantly adapt, even though they went a lot heavier. Okay, but then it ends. It just gets a little bit more and it ends. So yeah, of course they're going to be bigger, more nuclei, whatever, some myofibrillar growth, whatever. And a lot of it's sarcoplasmic growth, okay? Because of their training, that full range of motion, lots of repetition work, yada, yada, yada. Okay. Power lifters, why aren't they getting bigger? Why aren't they getting big like bodybuilders? Because they lift in a short range of motion, concentrically. Get it? You understand me? And that's associated with shortening muscles, a loss sarcomere series. They don't get bigger muscles. And yeah, that's it basically, really. There's nothing going on there.
Realistically, no big compound is maximizing growth in every muscle involved. They don't.
That's why they take a lot of steroids, powerlifters, and then they try bulking, and they do all these phony things. These so-called powerlifting people or lifting people, lifting short range of motion concentrically, they're either bulking or dirty bulking, clean bulking, doing all these weird things, man. It's just fucking bullshit.
Grow proportionately. We know this.
Yeah, okay, whatever.
Hey, we're all aware of this. We've all seen studies.
Sure you have.
Right? You take your...
I like it. We've all seen studies. No, a lot of people, they don't see the studies. They don't bother reading them. Blah.
Bench press. There are plenty of studies that show in various people the bench press and hypertrophy. They measure all the muscles and see how much they grow.
They measure all the muscles to see how they grow in the bench press. Yeah. Okay.
Pecs almost always grow the most. You know, and oftentimes interior...
Pecs almost always grow the most. That's why people lack pecs, right? Because they grow the most. That's why the majority of people complain they have no pecs. That's why they keep doing incline pec. You understand me? They go crazy with that. Yeah. They can't figure out why it's not growing. It's not growing because it's adapted. It has ended.
giving a similar amount. So in the same study, let's say
Look, he's doing his calf muscles so he can keep them short. Look at what he's doing. Look, there's no eccentric. Look, it's concentric.
they
Look,
take some lifters
see,
and their
that's the shortening position at the top,
pecs and front delts
right there at the top.
get
See how he's squeezing them at the top? The consistency in squeezing them at the top. Yeah, I read this. I read this to you people. Look, I'll show you. It's in this section right here. Review, use it or lose it. Multi-scale skeletal muscle adaptation to mechanical stimuli. So if you scroll across here, right here in this section, it says conversely, individuals who decrease weight bearing on a lower limb experience decrease in muscle volume. Well, yeah, that too. Chronic high heel wearers who keep their calves muscles immobilized at shorter lengths develop shorter what? Shorter muscles. Get it, man? Do you understand me? So what is Blaha doing here? He's immobilized his muscles at shorter lengths. That's what he's doing. He's immobilized his muscles at shorter lengths. See? Look.
17% larger over the course of that study. Their
See
tricep
that? He's immobilized his muscles at shorter lengths. His squat, deadlift, his calves, even his bench press, his arms, his shoulder workouts. You understand me, man? You people wake up, smell the coffee or what?
usually only grow, about 9 or 10% larger. The triceps
Yeah, but they don't grow concentrically. They're associated with a loss of muscle. You understand me like it says in science?
grew, but are you really truly training? No. So you could look at something like that and go, maybe
See what a goof. He wants to show you like as if he built something. It's nothing going on there, bro. He may be expanding the sarcoplasm, pumping in that short range. But the muscle itself, it got smaller. You understand me? But it's filled with fluid. That's all. We call that junk volume. Get it? Like what was that? Those people that came in 6 weeks lifting high volume, they got the majority is what? It's sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. Yeah, junk volume. Get it, dude? We consider that junk volume. I think maybe the people don't understand. Okay. So this whole thing, this fitness industry, when they keep telling you about junk volume, in reality, when they're really what they really meant in the past, talking about junk volume, what they meant was because of that, you built up junk volume in your body. It's sarcoplasmic. It isn't myofibrillar growth. So junk volume. So when you read that report, PubMed, where they tell you they trained high volume, they got sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, that's considered junk volume. That volume's junk because it's junk, because it's non-contractile. It's not based on contractile proteins. Yeah. I love how he's posing, showing you how, look at my non-contractile proteins I built, shortening my muscles. Woohoo!
maybe I need something else,
Sure.
for my triceps.
Is that baby oil you're wearing there, dude?
I wouldn't even have a problem with someone squatting doing a few leg extensions. I don't know.
Okay.
That's a whole different topic. I usually count quads.
I love these. I love these. Look what he's doing now for his traps. He's just pushing his shoulders up and down. His traps aren't doing the work. You really want your trap to do the work because it's a short range of motion. So what is he doing? He's using his shoulders to lift with his shoulders up and down. So he's using his shoulder blade and his shoulders. He's not using his trap muscle.
But you see where we're going with that? Same thing.
See, he's just squeezing them at the top. And that they can't figure out why they're not growing. Why aren't they growing? Because you're ass cheek squeezing them, making them to adapt by getting smaller. Get it, dude?
Okay, how about the side delt? Do you really want big side delts? You probably are going to have to do an exercise for them. Am I saying that?
Yeah, if you want big side delts, then you're going to have to do a specific a specific thing for them to get them to get bigger.
They won't be pretty big from rowing and pressing of different types. No, they can get growth, but they are going to be a little understimulated.
See how now he was doing them before with the 45s eccentrically, but now he's doing them with this weight. He's doing them concentrically. He ass cheek squeezing at the top to make sure that they stay small. Watch. Right there. When you squeeze them really hard, make sure that they don't grow and they get smaller. Yes.
So if you are stimulating growth that wasn't happening, are you in junk volume? No. Junk volume means
Yeah, are you stimulating growth? Are you getting junk volume, stimulating this no growth, whatever? Yeah. If you're just building non-contractile proteins, that's junk volume, dude. Get it?
we are now adding volume that you are not growing from.
Yeah. You're adding volume that you're not growing from? No. You're adding volume that you're growing the sarcoplasm from. Get it? That's considered junk volume because non-contractile proteins are junk compared to contractile.
Okay? Doing sets that are no longer causing you to get bigger, that's junk volume. You have to
Doing sets that no longer get you bigger, but your sets are getting you bigger. They're increasing the sarcoplasm.
understand that difference.
Yeah, doing sets that are not getting you bigger, your muscle, and keeping them smaller, that's definitely junk volume too, yeah.
All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative.
Thank goodness. Yeah, very informative. I'll see you in the next one, friends. Don't you think about to like, subscribe, support the channel. What a waste of time. This is like a lot of people out there in the fitness industry. Lifting for nothing but to keep your muscles from growing. Cool. Very, very smart.